Are you tired of not cashing in DFS? In order to win money in DFS, you need to be able to find the best play per dollar. Here at the Bayou Bengal Fantasy Network, we're here to help you find the best bang for your buck type of players. The first player that we want to target is someone who's been showing a little bit of a flash in the pan at the quarterback position in Derek Carr at 5,700. The Bears are giving up the 7th most DK points to opposing quarterbacks. Carr has scored over 20 DK points in the last 3 games. His start in New Orleans is not only really going as planned, but he is making the best of his situation. Carr's biggest problem is his inability to connect with young wideout Chris Olave. What has kept Carr really afloat is wide receivers Michael Thomas and Rashod Shahed. If Carr wants to develop into an every week fantasy starting quarterback, he's going to need to get on the same page with Olave consistently. This week against a very beatable Bears secondary could be just what the doctor ordered: get the Carr Olave connection really just healed up. The next player we want to target is a wide receiver from the quarterback we just mentioned, and he has blazing speed. That's Rashod Shahed at 4,500. The Bears are giving up the 16th most DK points to opposing wide receivers. Shahed has had at least 50 yards reception in 2 of his last 3 games. I'm talking about some bombs over here. This guy's an absolute burner. I mean, he can beat the defense with ease, which allows him to score these type of chunk plays. Any given play could result in a monster touchdown, which makes Shahed at 4,500 still a good price tag. You know, he's gone up in recent weeks, which kind of deflates his value just a bit. It's much better, when you used to be able to roster Shahed when he was 3,800, but he's still a great play this week at 4,500. Get him in your DK lineups. Now we want to move on to somebody who's seeing a ton of targets in Trey McBride at 3,700. The Browns are giving up the least DK points to opposing tight ends, but even with that being said, you've got to hear me out here now. Trey McBride has absorbed all of Zach Ertz's target share, and he's getting targeted an absurd amount for just a tight end. Well, you don't really see that at the tight end position. Last week, he had 10 receptions on 14 targets for 95 yards and a touchdown. Even with him going up against the best defense against that tight end position, the target share he is receiving is enough for me to just recommend this guy to you. He's a young tight end who wants to prove that he should be the #1 guy moving forward, especially once Kyler Murray returns to action. I see a tight end at 3,700 receiving this type of workload as an absolute steal. McBride is a set it and forget it this week for me. Next, we're looking at a backup running back who's been receiving productive work in Zach Moss at 5,800. The Panthers are giving up the 2nd most DK points to opposing running backs. Moss had at least a 20-yard run in 5 of his last 6 games. This guy's been absolutely electric, and even with Jonathan Taylor back in action, they are still feeding Moss the ball equally just because of his recent play. 5,800 is a good discounted price if you need somebody to kind of plug in this week into your running back spot. Moss should provide you with enough utility to be fantasy relevant in week 9. Lastly, let's talk about a wide receiver who's getting an opportunity this week in Juju SmithSchuster at 3,100. The Commanders are giving up the 2nd most DK points to opposing wide receivers. SmithSchuster should be the #1 wide receiver this week due to injuries to Kendrick Bourne and Devontae Parker. Now, I don't expect there to be a huge game here, but you could expect Bourne-like numbers. Maybe 15 to 18 DK points is definitely feasible here. Being the main option on a team that seems to be losing a lot, it really looks good to me. If you're in need of a wide receiver 3 spot, at a really cheap flex option, you make sure that Juju SmithSchuster is a part of your roster. He can definitely make it work for you. I mean, as of right now, recording this video, he is the #1 wide receiver. You might want to make sure you check the injury report before the games to make sure that Kendrick Bourne and Devontae Parker is out before slotting in Juju SmithSchuster. But I think Juju SmithSchuster could be golden for you this week.